Hello, tech enthusiasts! Today we're diving into the essentials of creating and managing databases, focusing on Oracle systems. It's a deep dive, but trust me, it's worth it. We'll start with the basics, like what a database is and why they're so important, and then move on to the nitty-gritty of creating and managing your own. By the end of this video, you'll be well on your way to becoming a database master. Alright, before we even think about spinning up a database, we gotta make sure our ducks are in a row. First up, you gotta have the Oracle database software installed on your server. I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? But you gotta make sure you've got the right version and it's properly configured. Next, your server needs to meet Oracle's hardware and software requirements. Think of it like building a PC. You need the right components to make sure everything runs smoothly. We're talking CPU, RAM, storage, the whole shebang. Oracle has some pretty specific requirements, so check those out on their website. Finally, we need to configure our initialization parameters. It's like setting the ground rules for your database. Things like memory allocation, file locations, and even administrator credentials. These parameters are set in a special file called the Database Initialization File. It's kind of like a config file for your database. Okay, now for the fun part, actually creating the database. There are two main ways to do this, using SQL scripts or Oracle Database Configuration Assistant, DBCA. SQL scripts are like writing out the instructions manually, giving you ultimate control. DBCA is more like a wizard that guides you through the process. Regardless of which method you choose, you'll need to specify some key parameters. This is where you give your database a name, choose the character set, allocate memory, define file locations, and set up those administrator credentials. This is like laying the foundation for your database, so make sure you get it right. Once you've got everything set up, you can kick off the database creation process. This is where Oracle gets to work, initializing all the necessary database files. Think of it like pouring the concrete for your database foundation. It takes a bit of time, but once it's done, you'll have a solid base to build on. Alright, we've got our database built, but it's not much use if it's not running, right? That's where the database instance comes in. Think of it like the engine of your database. It's what makes everything run. Before we fire it up, we need to double-check that our database initialization parameter file is correctly configured. Remember that config file we talked about earlier? We need to make sure all the settings are correct before we start the engine. Now, to actually start the database instance, we can use a few different tools: SQL*+, Oracle Enterprise Manager, or Oracle Database Control. These are all like different control panels for your database, allowing you to start, stop, and manage the instance. When you start the instance, it's like turning the key in the ignition. The database springs to life, initializing memory structures and opening up those database files. It's like the database is waking up and getting ready to work. Ever wondered how a database keeps track of all its stuff? Well, that's where the data dictionary comes in. It's like the library of your database, containing all the metadata about the objects and structures within it. Think of it like a giant card catalog, listing all the books, shelves, and sections of your database. The data dictionary itself is actually a set of tables and views. These tables and views contain information about everything from tables and indexes to users and privileges. It's like a detailed inventory of your database, telling you what's in it and how it's organized. Now, not just anyone can access the data dictionary. It's restricted to users with the appropriate privileges, like database administrators or developers. These users can query the data dictionary views to retrieve information about the database. It's like having a special library card that lets you access all the secrets of the database. So what kind of juicy information is stored in the data dictionary? Well, it's like a treasure trove of metadata about your database. Let's start with tables. The data dictionary stores information about each table in the database, like its name, columns, data types, and storage parameters. It's like having a blueprint for each table, telling you how it's structured. Next up, indexes. These are like the lookup tables of your database, helping you find data quickly. The data dictionary keeps track of all the indexes, including their type, columns, and storage details. It's like having a map of all the shortcuts in your database. Then we have users and privileges. The data dictionary stores information about all the users who have access to the database, as well as their roles and privileges. It's like a security system, defining who can do what in the database. And that's not all. The data dictionary also stores information about constraints, which are rules that enforce data integrity. It's like having a set of guidelines to ensure that your data is accurate and consistent. Finally, the data dictionary contains information about views, which are customized ways of looking at data from one or more tables. It's like having different lenses to view your data from different perspectives. All right, now let's talk about performance. How do we know if our database is running smoothly? That's where dynamic performance views come in. These are special views that provide real-time information about database performance. It's like having a dashboard for your database, showing you all the vital signs. Dynamic performance views give you insights into all sorts of things, from system statistics to internal metrics. You can see how much memory is being used, how many queries are running, and even how efficiently your database is processing data. It's like having a team of engineers constantly monitoring your database and reporting back on its health. So why are dynamic performance views so important? Well, they're essential for monitoring database performance and diagnosing issues. If your database is running slow or experiencing errors, dynamic performance views can help you pinpoint the problem. It's like having a detective on call to investigate any database mysteries. These views are particularly useful for database administrators and developers who need to keep a close eye on database performance. They can use dynamic performance views to identify bottlenecks, optimize queries, and ensure that the database is running at peak efficiency. It's like having a toolkit for fine-tuning your database engine. And here's the best part. Dynamic performance views are constantly updated, giving you a real-time snapshot of your database's performance. It's like having a live feed of your database's vital signs, allowing you to react quickly to any changes or issues. So there you have it, a crash course in database creation and management. We've covered a lot of ground today, from pre-creation prerequisites to the intricacies of the data dictionary and dynamic performance views. Remember, building and managing databases is an ongoing process, so keep learning and experimenting. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more tech deep dives. And don't forget to leave a comment down below with any questions or topics you'd like to see covered in future videos. Your feedback helps us make better content for you. Thanks for watching, and keep pushing your tech boundaries.